So I've been in the Danganronpa community for a little while now, and I've heard many things. Many things. But one thing I always hear is X character should have survived instead of Y character. Now this might be a little mini-series I do, but for now, we're just going to focus on the first game. I'm going to share with you guys how I would change the survivors of Danganronpa Trigger Happy Havoc. I'm going to tell you guys who I would resurrect back from the dead, and which survivors I would kill in order to make the story as good as possible. Now of course, this is just my opinion. Which people I would resurrect is going to be different from which people you would resurrect. So keep that in mind and let's get right into it. And by that, I mean let's not get right into it at all, because truth be told, I wouldn't change the survivors of the first game. Now this may come as a shock to you, because I know most people don't like some of the characters that survived, Yasuhiro and Toko being the two that get this hate the most. But I genuinely think Kodaka picked the perfect surviving cast for the story. Let me show you why. I feel like these 6 characters surviving made for the most interesting story, and if you replaced any of these with someone who died, I think the later chapters would be less interesting. So let's look at our 6 survivors here. You basically spend half of the entire game with these 6. Everyone else dies in the first half of the game, with Junko being there for a little bit in the end. The first chapter where you only have these 6 characters is in chapter 4. Once Sakura dies, a surviving cast is set in place. Now chapter 4 is a pivotal chapter for these 6 characters because chapter 4 shows these characters' flaws. And with those flaws, we get conflicts. Why do people like Nagito and Kokichi so much? Conflict. Why do people like Danganronpa? It's the conflict. These 6 survivors filled the latter half of the game with conflict. Let's start with someone that a lot of people despise. Yasuhiro. His flaw is immense fear. Because he's in the killing game, he's just very paranoid. And he thinks Sakura is going to kill him, so what does he do? He hits Sakura in the head with the bottle. Let's now go to Aoi. Aoi's flaw in this chapter is her lack of ability to control her emotions. She literally almost killed everyone, including herself, because of Sakura's suicide. Then on the other side, you have Byakuya. Byakuya is very logical and tries to solve cases only using the evidence, nothing else. He disregards emotions entirely, and that leads him to not actually solving the case. He needed the help of Makoto and Kyoko to do it. Then you have Toko, and honestly Toko's a weird case. I mean, she has her flaws as Genocide Jack obviously because she's a serial killer, and she kinda just does whatever she wants as Genocide Jack really. And last but not least, you have Kyoko. Now, I can't actually remember if this happens in chapter 4 or chapter 5, but you have this phase where Kyoko just doesn't trust Makoto and they stop talking. Now, do you see how many conflicts these flaws set up? We got one conflict with Aoi and Byakuya, emotions versus logic. You got another conflict with Aoi and Yasuhiro. This one is kind of just Aoi blaming Yasuhiro for being the killer for 2 chapters in a row. You also got Makoto and Kyoko in a conflict which is about trust. Then you got Byakuya versus literally everyone. I mean, for most of the game, Byakuya was on about how he would defeat everyone and win the killing game. He was very much an antagonistic force to the students. Now this is why the cast works so well. They're all very different. They don't agree on everything. Not each student is really fond of each other. But at the end of the day, what happens? They settle their differences and they form a group and they pursue the mastermind together. Now while they're on the journey of figuring out who the mastermind is, there's a lot of memorable interactions between the characters. For example, everyone calling out how stupid Yasuhiro is. Everyone comments on his stupidity in a different way. Aoi basically says, even she's not as dumb as Hiro. Byakuya is more smug about it. Toko always uses his stupidity as a diss or a burn, and Kyoko's just silent as if that's what she expects. Then you got interactions between Toko and Byakuya. A lot of people probably found these creepy, but I actually thought they were pretty funny. One of the most memorable interactions was that one time Toko stayed silent because Byakuya told her not to speak because she had bad breath, and Toko just obeyed. Interactions like these really stood out due to just how bizarre they were. Even Hiro was pointing out how crazy it was. Also, moments where Toko would get jealous of Aoi really highlighted her insecurities. Also, remember that one time Aoi slapped Byakuya in the face? because Byakuya was okay with Sakura dying. And then after she slapped him, Toko was furious. It's interactions like these that really made the game entertaining. I think you get the point by now. The reason why I think these characters make really good survivors is because they work well together. Sure, these may not be the strongest characters on their own, but they play off each other so well. There was that time when Aoi and Genocide Jack got into a fight. Genocide Jack didn't really care about Sakura, and Hina snapped. All of a sudden, Genocide Jack is attacking her with scissors. Speaking of Genocide Jack, let's talk about her for a second. There are 6 survivors in the first game, but with the addition of Genocide Jack, it almost seems like there are 7 surviving characters. Genocide Jack is really unique compared to everyone else, and that's why she works as a survivor. In the final investigation, there was a part where Monokuma gave each student a picture. In this picture, the student who received the picture saw every other student in the picture but themselves. What did this do? This made everyone suspicious of each other. Hiro thought everyone else was the mastermind, and Aoi and Byakuya shared the same thought. When you're about to go into the elevator for the last time, no one is talking to you. Everyone is either silent or very serious. Then you got Genocide Jack, who's just as loud as ever, saying whatever she wants, and is just doing what Genocide Jack does. Genocide Jack is just a good contrast to the other characters, because when everyone's in despair, she's just living life, and it's amazing to see. Now before I finish off, let's list the purpose of each surviving character so we're clear about why I think they deserve to survive. Yasuhiro is the coward character. He's basically the Sayaka that survived. His paranoia serves as a constant reminder that you are in the killing game. Fear is only normal when you're in a life or death situation, and Yasuhiro is here to tell us that this truly is a situation of despair. Aoi is a pivotal character because of the conflicts she creates. I mean, out of all these characters, she definitely does create the most conflicts. So even if you dislike her for almost killing everyone, you cannot deny that she's one of the most important characters in the game just because she's always fighting with the other members of the cast. The same can be said for Byakuya. In the beginning, he seems like a big threat to the other students, but he goes through some development. He realizes that he's not the smartest person in the school, and he decides to fight alongside the rest of the group when he realizes the mastermind isn't playing the game fairly. Kyoko is the character that makes the plot interesting. She does simple things characters in the later games don't do for some reason, like whispering into someone's ear to hide stuff from the mastermind. I mean, seriously, in V3, all the plans are just laid out in the open for Monokuma to hear. It's actually insane. Kyoko takes a lot of risks, and those risks create a lot of suspense. Will Monokuma be able to stop Kyoko's plans, or will Kyoko's plans succeed? Then, you got Makoto. And honestly, I really like Makoto. I know a lot of people say they hate him because he's too boring and normal, but I honestly do like his personality. He tries not to make enemies, and he's one of the most trustable characters. That's why Kyoko makes most of her plans with Makoto. Not only that, Makoto is very mentally strong. I mean, this guy got framed for murder, he almost got stabbed, and he almost got executed, but in the end, he still didn't lose hope. But it's not like he's perfect. After all, when Sayaka framed him, he was devastated, and in chapter 5, when he had to make a decision to call out Kyoko's lie, he was torn. I still do wish though that they gave a reason for why he's very optimistic, because it really isn't explained. For some reason, he just is optimistic. There's no explanation for it, so I wish they had one. And I already explained Genocide Jack's purpose. I think she's just meant to be there because she's very unique, different from everyone else. She's different in how she reacts to things. As for Toko though, to be honest, I'm not really sure why she's there. Even Kodaka said he doesn't know what he was doing with Toko. He just kind of put her in there. So I guess Toko's that one character that you could take out of the survivors, but I like her in there just because of Genocide Jack. I also think Toko herself is funny, like just the normal Toko. I think she's funny. I think her and Hiro add a lot of comedy into it. I know a lot of people hate that comedy, but hey, that's my thing. I like that comedy that they bring in. So I guess that's just the personal thing. But yeah, this is why I think these 6 made perfect survivors. They just set up so many conflicts and it made the latter half of the game just so much more entertaining. So yeah, that's it. Peace. Now I know what you guys are all thinking. Well, yeah, that proves why these are good survivors. But what about the people that died? Wouldn't it have been better if they survived? Well, now I'm gonna tell you guys why I think the dead characters should actually stay dead, as bad as that sounds. Let's start with Sayaka and Leon. Sayaka and Leon show fear. They show how fear in the killing game is just awful. Now, I guess you could say, Leon was a better survivor than Yasuhiro. That's personal preference. Just which character you like better. Because Yasuhiro is a fearful guy himself. But killing off Sayaka was the perfect first death, because she was someone that we were very close to at the time. She got a lot of focus early on, and it was just unexpected. No one expected the heroine, or so we thought, to be the first one to be killed off. Now Mukuro, she was just more killed off for the plot. And I don't think she was meant to be a character that we explored in depth or anything. So yeah. Leon, I think he could have gotten more. I think they could have focused on him more in the first chapter. Yeah, that would make him an obvious killer. But he already is an obvious killer. Everyone knows 11037 was Leon. Like, it was already obvious, right? So just focus on him either way, Just kill him off right off the bat. I think that's what should have happened. Next, Chapter 2. Chapter 2. This is where I know people start to revolt. Chihiro. A lot of people wanted Chihiro to survive. A lot of people think Chihiro should have survived. I don't though. You know why? Chihiro was a perfect early death because Chihiro is useful after death. Right? Her alter ego, she was used after her death. She was so useful. That's why it's perfect to kill her off. She gets focused even after death. She lives on even after she dies. It is crazy. It is insane that they did that. He is the MVP. I keep saying she. Sorry. Even I get confused. He was actually the MVP, of the game. Along with Kyoko. How useful he was, even after he died, was insane. And then Mondo? Mondo was a parallel to Chihiro. The strength and the weakness. Him seeing that Chihiro was trying to change. And then him thinking Chihiro was sort of mocking him for staying the same. That was so good. That was so well done. Mondo's backstory was just super sad. Him accidentally killing his brother. Dude, Mondo got a lot of focus, and it was good focus. His character was set within 2 chapters. It was good. I think him getting killed right there was a good thing. Next, another one where people are revolt. Kiyotaka. Now, I know you guys are all saying, Kiyotaka didn't get his development. His character just stopped midway, and he got killed off. Now, I don't think this is a bad thing. Hear me out, okay? Mondo was Kiyotaka's best friend. He was his only friend ever. Now, Kiyotaka's in depression, right? He's in such a depression. He copes with it using Kyondo, his Super Saiyan form. And then, boom, right there. Dead. You know what this shows us? This shows us despair. This is exactly what the mastermind wants. Despair. She got what she wanted. Kiyotaka, he didn't get his redemption. And that made me feel for him. That actually made me feel for him. If he did grow out of it, sure, that would have led to something, right? That would have led to some sort of character development. But this death gets you in the heartstrings. Everyone is sad when he dies. The only thing I would fix is the character reactions to his death. I don't think the characters in the game reacted to his death that well. I think they should have been a bit more sad. But for the player, that death was super sad. That was such a sad death. Just seeing him lying there after him and Mondo split and him just getting depressed off that. Bro, that was so sad. I think it was a perfect death. I think it was perfect timing. Just showing us the despair of the killing game. Showing us the negative emotions that can be evoked with the killing game. Next, Hifumi. Hifumi, kind of the same thing. Now, I don't think Hifumi's the best character. Not by a long shot. But even he had his sad story. Him talking to Alter Ego. Even though this is creepy. I mean, he has some sort of sad story going on. He's like, no girl has talked to him like that ever before. And I know Alter Ego is not a girl, but it's a sad story. It actually is. If you think about it, it's sad. No one has interacted with him like that ever before. That is pretty sad. So yeah, even he got his little thing going on like Kiyotaka did. I do think Hifumi could have gotten a bit more though, just before he died. I think killing him off in chapter 3 was good. I think he should have gotten more in chapter 1, 2, and 3. Just more overall to make his character better. Then you got Celeste. Honestly, Celeste, I could see an argument for why you would keep her as a survivor. I just don't see what kind of conflict she would bring in necessarily. Yeah, that's the only real problem I have with Celeste surviving. I can't really see what type of conflict she would have with the rest of the cast. You know, I can't really see what kind of interaction she would have either. So yeah, I don't know, that might just be me. I just can't see it. I can't see any possibilities for big conflicts with Celeste. So yeah, that's why I just wouldn't have Celeste surviving. And then Sakura was sort of the bridge for the rest of the characters, right? Sakura's death was the one that created so many conflicts between the cast, right? And Sakura's death, in the end, also united the survivors. So Sakura dying in chapter 4 was pivotal. I think that was very important. So this is why I think all of the other characters that actually died should actually have died, and they did. So I think Kodaka wrote who died and who survived pretty well.